The Cards of Cthulhu by David J. This is a game that came out recently. Despite the name, it is a dice game. At least it feels like a dice game to me. There are cards, a lot of them, they have a huge role in the game, but so many of the decisions that you make have to do with dice in the game that the game feels mainly like a dice game to me. Which is just a clarification, it is not something that has to do with the quality of the game at all. The theme is as Lovecraftian as a theme can be. Cthulhu is coming and you need to stop him. Even worse than this, other three elder gods are ready to awaken from their slumber and ready to destroy the world as we know it. Yes, in this game the player is facing not one, two or three, but four cults that worship the elder gods that have been created by Lovecraft in his rich, wonderful and disturbing mythology. So you're trying to prevent these cults from summoning the horror that will destroy the world. This is a solitaire game mainly. I played it solitaire only. You could play it co-op multiplayer if you so wished. I didn't feel the need. I think that the game works very well as is. And I'm already anticipating something of my conclusions, which is that the game does work well as a solitaire game. Definitely, this is a game that I enjoyed. I couldn't resist until the conclusions, could I? I had to say it here. Oh, gee. Anyhow, probably you're thinking dice game or game with dice, Lovecraftian theme, Elder Sign. The connection is natural. If you're a gamer, you may know that at a game in which you roll dice, you are fighting against Lovecraftian horrors. Yet, the game is quite different here, the Cards of Cthulhu is quite different, and I can already tell you that personally I prefer this one, I prefer the Cards of Cthulhu. Anyhow, let me show you how the game works, and then we'll talk more about the game in general in the conclusions of my video. In this game, you play the role of an investigator, and your investigator will be represented by a card describing the unique ability that the investigator has. For most investigators, you can use their special ability once per turn. Some can use it for free, if you see a 0 there. Some have to pay a cost in experience points. And experience points are the currency of the game, and you pay your cost by spending experience points, which are represented by these coins. Very nice components that allows you to keep track of how many experience points you have and how many you spend. So you have your investigator at the beginning of the game. You also have 4 experience points. Then the actions of the bad guys and the events of the game in general will be regulated by this deck of cards. Also, you will use these 4 boards. Each board represents a cult, one of 4 cults that you're trying to stop before they summon the elder that they worship, and that ends the world. Each board shows you the bad guy that the cult worships and is trying to summon. Then you have an area for gate cards, I'll explain what those are later, an area for minions, and an area for horrors, minor, major, and unspeakable. Simply put, at the beginning of each turn you will draw 4 cards. This is the default number of cards that you draw, but the number may change throughout the game. Then you look at the cards and you place them in the area where they apply. The card may be a horror, in which case you simply place it on the board of the cult and in the box that applies. Unspeakable horror for this cult here, the Cult of Cthulhu, then I place it here. Horrors usually enter the game face down as sleeping horrors. You see there are numbers here, 2 minions, 3 minions, 4 minions. This is the number of minions that need to be on a board for the horror to wake up. The horrors are pretty much the henchmen of the elder. They're stronger than the minions, more annoying, harder to beat. Then, for example, here we have a yellow minion, so it goes here on that minion area, and then we have a red minion and a green minion. For a for a horror to wake up, as I said earlier, you need a certain amount of minions to be present there. But that's just an idea. You flip cards over and you place them where they need to go. Also, there may be items which you place in front of you. I'll put them here for now, and that you can purchase. The same applies to followers. You may draw a follower, in which case again you place it in front of you. You may also have gates, in which case you place it on the board that applies. This is a yellow gate. Each gate, each board that has an open gate will generate an extra card draw each turn. That applies immediately. That means the very turn that I draw that card, I already need to draw an extra card and place it wherever it is that it needs to go. So that's tough. So you will have minions around, and you will have horrors that may be sleeping or may be awake. When a board has a number of minions that equals or exceeds the number connected to an horror, then the horror will awake. When that number is reached, that turn the horror will awake. Anyhow, after you draw your cards and you place them wherever they have to go, you have the purchase phase, during which you can purchase followers and or items that became available. And you simply pay the cost and you place the card in your play area by your investigator. You do not have to purchase things that become available. If you don't, you discard them and you get an experience point for each follower or item that you do not purchase. Another type of card, actually, there aren't many, this is why I kind of forgot, is the curse card. It works like an item in a sense. Well, it works like an special event. You flip it and you simply follow the instructions. In this case, for example, you slay one follower or you use no magic spells this turn. After the purchase phase, in which you purchase items, recruit followers, or gain experience by not purchasing or anything, you get the phase in which the horrors awake if there is a sufficient number of minions. The horrors awake. Roar, there you go. Wakey wakey horror. That horror is now awake, and this is an annoying one. If there are awakened horrors, the next step in the turn is the sanity loss. That is, if there are horrors that are awake, you will lose sanity. You will lose a number of experience points equal to the number, the dice combo number, which also is the number here. You will lose a number of experience points equal to the number associated to the horror. If you have multiple horrors, it is the worst one that hits you. So even if there were other ones, the worst ones are 4, then if there is a 4 dice horror awake, I lose 4 experience points to record the sanity that I'm losing. If you do not have that amount of points, you can also slay a follower, if you have a follower. If you cannot pay the cost of the sanity loss, either by slaying followers or by paying experience points, you go mad, you go insane, and you lose the game. That's one of the various ways that you can lose the game. After the sanity loss phase, suppose that you're still sane, it is time for you to fight, to attack. To attack, you will use dice. Your standard default set of dice is this one. 2 green dice, which are health dice, and a red one, which is the body dice. They're used to inflict wounds on the opponent, but tricky thing, if you roll a 1 on this die, then you take a wound and you lose one of the green dice, one of the health dice. So the green dice are also used to keep track of the number of health points that you have. If you have no green dice and you take another wound, then you lose the game. So you will want to heal and get your dice back as soon as you can. I'll explain later how you can do that. In any case, you choose, when it's your combat step, you choose the board that you want to attack. Usually you can attack only one, and you roll the dice. It is also a good idea to purchase spirit dice, which are the white dice, and you can do that by spending experience point per die that you purchase. And you can purchase up to a maximum of 3 per combat. So you have your dice and you choose your target. However, the targets on the boards can be tricky because they tend to protect each other. For example, well, suppose that this is the situation. What is that we need to take into account when we choose the targets that we attack? Awakened horrors protect anything else on the board. So if there is an awakened horror, you have to attack that first before you can attack the minions. If there are no awakened horrors, you can attack the minions. But the minions also protect the gates and the sleeping horrors. So before you can remove a gate or attack a sleeping horror, you have to eliminate all of the minions. So as you can see, they protect each other. Eliminating a gate is pretty simple. You follow the instruction that is written there, which is you discard 3 experience points. For the minions and the horrors, well, things are a little more complicated here. You roll your dice, you look at the result, and you can also re-roll dice. You cannot re-roll once, those stay. After your re-roll, you distribute the dice to attack your enemies. Suppose that here we only have minions. This is simple. I have a 6 and here, and I match it with that card that has a 6 there. To eliminate a minion, I need to match the number of health points, life points that the minion has, which is printed up there. I have a 6 there, I have a 5 here, I put together, I have a 4 here, maybe put together some of the dice, and I just attack the minions. And for each minion that I eliminate, I gain an experience point. So I only need to match the numbers there. For the horrors, I need to create a combo of 2 dice, 3 dice, and 4 dice respectively, depending on the size of the minion. I can form a combo by having dice that show the same result. For example, if I have 3 dice that all show a 6, 666, I don't know, seems appropriate given the theme. Well, if I have 3 dice showing the same number, then I have a 3 dice combo, and I could, for example, slay a major horror or a minor one. In order to slay an unspeakable, I need a combo of 4, and it can be any 2, 3, or 4 numbers. It just needs to be, well, a combo. Another way of forming a combo is not by having dice that all show the same number, but by having dice that show consecutive numbers. For example, if I have 1, 2, 3, and 4, then I have a pretty neat 4 dice combo, which would be enough to kill this guy here. So you form combos by creating sequences of numbers or by creating groups of matching numbers. Again, you need a combo of 2, a combo of 3, or a combo of 4, depending on the horror that you are slaying. Slaying horrors is also pretty tricky though, because it's more likely that you will get wounded. When you're attacking a horror, you get wounded not just when you roll a 1 on the body die, but when you roll any number from 1 to the number associated with the horror. So if you're attacking an unspeakable horror and your body die is 1 through 4, you get a 1. 1 through 3, through 3, 1 through 2. Much more likely to get wounded there. Luckily enough, slaying horrors also gives you a lot of experience points, because you get a number of experience points equal to, again, the number associated with the horror. Kill an unspeakable horror, gain 4 experience points. And you also have magic spells that can help you. There is display rate, which really does a good job of reminding you all the things that you need to know.
Very good for the magic spells. Yes, it costs 1 experience points to purchase a spirit die. You can perform a second attack by spending 3 experience points, and if you want to use spirit dice, you need to purchase them again. Healing, will you regain your green dice, cost of 3 per health die, and then to seal a gate, to destroy a gate, you need to spend 3 experience points. After you're done with your combat phase, you look at the boards. If there is a board where you have 5 or more minions lined up there, then you lose the game, because the minions created enough critical mass to summon the Elder, and that is the end for everybody, including them. If there aren't 5 minions on any of the boards, then the game continues. Again, you draw cards. I would draw 5 cards in this case, because I have a gate there. You draw the cards. Oh, a resource. Migo goes there, and not the major horror cultist. And you continue like this. Attacking things, trying to keep the cults at bay until the end of the game. You win the game if you manage to survive through the entire deck, and if you manage to eliminate all of the horrors that are on the board. If you run out of cards but there's still horrors that are alive, you still need to attack those and eliminate those before you can win the game.
As I could not help let out in the introduction of the video, this is a game that I liked. I definitely enjoyed playing this game. The art is very good, is very atmospheric, is very evocative. It does show the horrors of Lovecraft more or less in the way in which one would imagine them, also borrowing from other art that has been created in the past on this theme, no less. But it works well, it definitely delivers, it creates a good atmosphere, if good is the right word in this case. An atmosphere that fits the theme, that fits the story. The game is challenging, it is definitely tough to beat. It does not have a linear progression. There have been times that I played the game and it looked and felt like a stroll in the park. Everything was going so well. Then 4 gates show up in a single draw, and well, all hell breaks loose, pretty much literally. Hell explodes on Earth the following turn. Then I just lost the game. So sometimes there are these peaks of intensity that may feel random, may feel like they're destroying an otherwise pretty consistent, coherent impression or story. Well, you know that they may happen. You have to plan ahead. Do not get too attached to that sense of security. Store up resources, knowing that the peaks of intense action from the AI and therefore from the cults that you're fighting are likely to happen, most likely will happen, and you need to be ready for those. But it's true, there will be games that may happen that are crazy, but there are games that, because of the mix of cards, feel just right. And luckily enough, that's the majority of the games that I've had. And I played quite a bit of games of this game because I found it quite addictive. Precisely because of the unpredictability, because the game plays fast, the action is fast, you can reset up easily. I found myself playing several games in a row in the same session. I became quite addicted to the adventure, to the variety of events, to the challenges, to the story that is created by the game, to the mechanics. Yes, mechanically the game is interesting because it does present you with choices that are relevant. Not a million choices really. It is the most recurrent choice is about the number of spirit dice, of extra dice that you will purchase using magic, but it's a huge decision that sometimes you will regret not making. Some of the times you will spend too many dice and you will realize that you did precisely that, you wasted resources. So there are decisions that have to do with that aspect of the game, with manipulating your pool of dice, but generally speaking it is really a matter of managing resources against changing odds. the number of followers that you have, which items you buy, when it is right time to choose to get experience points instead of certain items. Those are the things that you can control. Having to choose a board also is a very important decision, because sometimes the action happens on many boards and you have to choose the one that is the most pressing for you to act against. Sometimes it is an obvious decision, some of the times it is a tougher decision that does involve a calculated risk, and that is something that is, of course, good in terms of gameplay. The Cards of Cthulhu, a very good solitaire game. Very simple, very easy to learn, just a couple of pages of rules, very accessible. It plays fast, especially if you lose early in the game, but even if you go through the entire game, the game will not drag. The game is intense and exciting throughout. There is a random factor which you can and should expect from a game so heavily based on cards, but this is common to games of this type. The fun that you have from the games that come out right, by which I don't mean the games that necessarily win, but the games that tell a good story, well, the fun that you have from that type of game really is enough to make up for the occasional game that comes out weird because of the way the cards have been shuffled. Good game with a good story, really nice art, nice feel, interesting decisions. A game that I liked, a game that I'm happy to add to my collection, and I have to say a game that definitely I'm planning and looking forward to playing in the future. The Cards of Cthulhu gets a very high endorsement from me. 2 big thumbs up from this video reviewer for the Cards of Cthulhu. Good job, DVG.